Judgment call. This is what Pastor Apollo Quiboloy said in relation to the terrifying wildfires the world is currently experiencing. But why did the good pastor say this? Let's hear more details in Sarah Santos' report.
Canada is facing their worst wildfire season in history as over 1,000 fires burned, damaging more than 15 million hectares of land and leaving no province nor territory in the county spared. Ang Hawaii naman, recently, they also had a devastating fire in Maui, especially in the Lahaina city, no, na kung saan talagang napakatindi ng init na pati yung bakal natutunaw.
In the most recent Give Us This Day program on Wednesday, August 30th, Pastor Apollo Quiboloy of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ said that the terrifying wildfires that is currently happening in various countries including Canada, USA, Greece, Spain, Italy, Algeria, Tunisia, and Turkey is a judgment call. The good pastor's statement comes after he was asked about his view as a spiritual leader on the consecutive tragedies caused by wildfires in the said countries. Here, Pastor Apollo shares that this could possibly be the fulfillment of the two visions he received in his younger years.
So talagang matutupad na siguro sinabi ng banal na aklat na hindi na tubig ang gagamitin ng Ama para i-judge ang sanlibutan, kundi apoy na. Ako may mga kapayagan dyan. Hindi ko lang masasabi sa inyo ang bansa kung saan nakita ko ito'y nasusunog. At munang pahayag na yon. Siguro mangyayari yan at the later moment. And this is a judgment call kasi yung kapayagan ko noong ako'y tinawag ng Ama, nasa parang pa ako. I was 17 years old siguro. Second year high school. Yung dalawang dream ko pinakita niya na nagtatakbuhan ng tao, lumulundag, pumutok yung mga nagliliyab. Lumundag sila sa dagat, nangyari sa Maui yun. Tapos, in a larger scale, sa buong sanlibutan naman, ang second dream ko, na pati ang langit, parang banig na ginaganon, but it was on fire. Kahit lumundag ka pa sa dagat, hahabulin ka ng sunog.
Meanwhile, the European Union, or EU, recently announced that the current wildfires in Greece are the largest on record in the entire bloc. Due to the size, Greece has asked for assistance from other countries to contain the fires, from which the EU had sent 11 airplanes and helicopters. Since the wildfires started in Greece on August 19th, at least 20 wildfire-related deaths have been recorded in the said country. In relation to this, as an appointed son of God, Pastor Apollo Quiboloy said that if Egypt had a Goshen in the times before, there's also a safe place that God had prepared in our time today.
So pasalamat tayo, mayroon tayong bagong Jerusalem tulad ng Goshen na kung saan magiging safe ang tao. Kaya when the world is under judgment, the Father always sets aside a place where all His people can go for safety. And if Egypt has a Goshen, then the Father in the last days has a new Jerusalem.
It can be noted that Pastor Apollo is known as a spiritual leader with a prophetic ministry in which everything he says happens. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Sarah Santos, SMNI News.
China and the United States have resumed their high-level talks, and the recent one is a meeting between Chinese Vice Premier and the U.S. Commerce Secretary. According to Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, this meeting serves as an example that visiting Beijing is not an act of treason. Hannah Jane Sancho has the details.
Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng met with U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimundo during her visit to Beijing on Tuesday. The two parties had candid, pragmatic, and constructive discussions over implementing the important consensus reached at the Bali meeting between the two countries' heads of state, as well as economic and trade issues of common concern. China expressed concerns about U.S. actions such as Section 301 tariffs, export controls against China, and investment restrictions. Both sides agreed to maintain communication and support businesses of both nations for long-term cooperation. According to Pastor Apollo Quiboloy of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the U.S. officials' recent trip to China serves as an example that visiting Beijing is not synonymous with being a traitor.
Yun nga, ang ating argumento noong nakaraang Sunday na itong mga masyadong masyadong parang masyadong maka-Amerikano na kung bibisita ka lang ng hindi maganda yung sasabing traidor. Yun ang parang hindi maganda sa mga sinasabi na pagka ikaw bumisita ng China sa panahon ito dahil sa Ayungin Shoal, ikaw ay traidor o hindi mo kinondena, ikaw ay traidor. So, nilinaw natin yon.
Pastor Apollo further stated that the U.S. is now courting China because the latter is gradually releasing the debt that Washington owes, which could potentially lead to the downfall of the American economy.
Ito nga, sunod-sunod ang pagbisita ng mga opisyal ng Amerika sa China upang makipagkasundo sa kanilang mga trade para daw mapabuti ang China at ang Amerika para maganda yung kanilang usapan. Kasi nire-release na ng China ang pagkakautang ng Amerika. Yung binayaran ng China ang utang ng Amerika 800 billion na tayo. Ngayon, dahan-dahan nire-release. Pag na-release lahat yan, mahirapan na ekonomiya ng Amerika. Kaya nililigawan nila ngayon ng China. O kayong masyadong parang kung sa Papa pa, kung sa Katoliko pa, they are more popist than the Pope. They are more Americans than the Americans kung magtanggol sila.
Pastor Apollo called for a broader perspective and cautioned against bias towards any country. He emphasized the need for logical thinking and urged people not to label someone a traitor based on visiting China.
Bias. Ang hindi ko gusto ron, bias. Na pagka bumisita ka doon sa lugar na yon, ikaw ay traidor na. That is a sweeping statements na hindi maganda pakinggan sapagkat walang argumento doon at walang lohika. Kung didebate tayo, bigyan mo ng pagkakataong makapagsalita yung iba sa kanilang mga opinion. Tulad ngayon, itong mga opisyal na to, pabalik-balik sa China, sila pa nga ang nanliligaw sa China ngayon. Traidor ba sila sa Amerika? Diba? Ganon yun.
This follows Pastor Apollo's clarification amid speculations about whether he is pro-China or pro-US. But Pastor Apollo said that his loyalty lies only with the Philippines. It should be noted that the good pastor recently visited Beijing to facilitate the necessary arrangements for the construction of the world's largest indoor cathedral, the Kingdom. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
In his Give Us His Day program, Pastor Apollo Quiboloy talked about the power struggle unfolding among world leaders, as evident in U.S. President Joe Biden's push for reforms within the International Monetary Fund and World Bank to counterbalance China's growing influence through BRICS. Jade Calabroso files this report.
Well, good afternoon.
U.S. President Joe Biden will push for reforms within the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, and World Bank at the upcoming G20 summit on September 9. Biden aims to make the IMF and World Bank a positive and transparent alternative to challenge China's proposed development finance initiatives. Biden's push for reforms came following the success of the BRICS Leaders Summit in South Africa, which resulted in the more countries joining the economic bloc in January 2024. These countries include Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. This move brings 6 of the world's largest oil producers into BRICS, and negotiations among these nations are expected to use their respective national currencies, posing a significant challenge to the US dollar. This development is expected to strengthen the BRICS new development bank, established by the Association to Aid Developing Economies. Pastor Apollo Quiboloy of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ stated that this could signify the end of a unipolar world and the shift toward a multipolar world.
Yung G20 or a group of 20 is made up of Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, UK, US, and the European Union. Yung BRICS is composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. At marami pang mga bansa yata ang sumasapi ngayon sa BRICS. So, a group of nations ang BRICS invited the BRICS group of nations invited 6 countries, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to join the emerging markets bloc as it made expansion a focus of this year's summit. Tapatan na to.
Pastor Apollo emphasizes that this is a power struggle and countries should carefully consider which side to align with.
So, parang yung mga unipolar world, magiging multipolar world na. So, meron ng mga tapatan itong mga kapangyarihan ito ng mga world economists. So, sa balita ko, ang BRICS, they hold the 41% of the world population, which comprise of how many percent of the world economy. Nasa kanilang mga kamay na yan ngayon. So, kung ano ang itatapat dito at kung ano yung makainganyo sa mga bansa na sumapi dito ay para sa kanilang kapakanan kung nakikita lang ito'y makakabuti. Kaya meron na tayong mga choices.
To recall, one of the key agendas of the BRICS summit is de-dollarization, and this is being strongly advocated by Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNA News.